Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Respect Podcast. Today, we have the honor of getting into episode 3. But before we get started, I am your host, Jovi, and this is
Adam,
Hi. How are
welcome. Welcome to the Respect podcast. Glad to have you.
you? Glad to have you guys. So, episode 2, that one was pretty
A little spicy,
little spicy.
no poquito picante.
Just a little bit, but we're so excited to get into episode 3 because we left you guys at the end of episode 2 about a trip that we planned to go to Puerto Rico as friends. And I'm so excited to share this part because we just came back from Puerto Rico literally last night. So it's been 10 years since we've gone like alone because we did go 2 years ago with some friends. But we want to get into the story. So I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. So from the last episode, I had talked about me coming over. I think I was out from the gym and I came to visit Adam at his apartment, and which is the apartment we live in now. And I remember I was just stretching on the floor and we were just talking about traveling. And I felt this call to be like, hey, do you want to go on a trip to Puerto Rico? Like just me and you, like as friends, like, we can go in April. And you were like, yeah, let's go. Book it
Hell
right
yeah.
now.
Book it right now. Book the trip. Let's do it. Do it right now. Pull up the Expedias, the booking.com. Let's get it done.
And book the flight. So that same day, I looked up the flights. I told him how much. He sent me the money and he was like, all right, let's go. So in between that, so this was March 2015, and we booked the trip to go beginning of April 2015. And in between, I'm making an itinerary because, guys, so a little background, I'm half Puerto Rican, half Venezuelan. And as a little girl, I always went to Puerto Rico with my grandmother. My grandmother took me a lot of the time during the summertime. I have a very deep connection with this island. And, my dad's side of the family is Puerto Rican. So when I had planned this trip, I told Adam, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have the itinerary ready. I have a couple things that we're gonna do, and even things that I haven't done, that I would like to do with you. And then I remember I was having a conversation with you, and then you mentioned what?
Yeah, so you were talking to me about all this great itinerary, same kind of energy that you have right now. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and like it all sounded great. But I was trying to get my little romantical Adam on, and I was like, we need to do one thing. You can book whatever you'd like, make the whole trip however you like, except for one thing. We need to go horseback riding on the beach. That was important to me. Uh, and I had a picture in my head how it was gonna go, like these Instagram videos that I saw, and we were like, okay, you said okay, we'll do the horseback riding on the beach, but you're like, but we can also go to Culebra, we can go to El Yunque. I'm like, yeah. We'll do those things, but make sure at least one day we got horseback riding on the beach. And that was important to me, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. This is a fun note for later.
Yes. I laugh because I'm like, I remember at that point when you told me, I'm like, all right, let me do some research and find a place, and then booked that excursion for us. So I literally had an itinerary. Guys, I'm obsessed with spreadsheets. Adam is obsessed with spreadsheets. So all of our trips are out of like spreadsheets, like day by day, our itinerary, what is it that we're gonna do. So we go ahead, we book it, and then now it's our time to fly to Puerto Rico. So we get to the airport and we bump into one of Adam's friends. Do you want to
Yeah,
talk about that?
a good friend of mine at the time. We would hang out like pretty much every week, maybe multiple times a week. And I see him and he's like, "Hey, where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to Puerto Rico." He's like, "I'm going to Puerto Rico." He was Puerto Rican and he brought
Mhm.
his girlfriend at the time. Turns out they were sitting on this we were going on the same flight and they were in the row behind us. And I'm like, "Wow, what a coincidence." And so it became like our little friends trip um into like a little bit of a bigger trip with them. And we didn't do everything together. We weren't attached at the hip, but we did a lot of the activities together, and it was a really fun time. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but we had a good time on that airplane ride.
We
There,
did.
I was celebrating. I was drinking early on the airplane. We were having fun.
Yeah.
When we got to the rental car in San Juan, I'm making jokes with the rent a car attendant, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not giving you guys this car." And I had to like chill out. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, bring down the energy. She's sober. I'm just joking around with you, and we got our car.
I remember I would keep looking at you. I'm like, yo, you gotta calm down because we're not gonna get this car. And like I had a little buzz going on, but like Adam was like lit. And I was
Yeah,
like, yo, you gotta calm down and stop making all these jokes because they're not gonna give us a car. But thankfully they gave us a car and I was able to drive us to our Airbnb at the time. So we dropped off our bags. His friend actually, they went on their own way, and we decide, okay, on the first day we're going to go to Old San Juan. And I was like, okay, I gotta show you El Morro. Like, we're gonna go over there. We're gonna just walk around. So we start walking around. We're just sightseeing. We're taking pictures. We're in awe. Like, and the the sun starts to set, and I remember we were just talking and vibing, walking around, and we get to this part of the El Morro where you kind of see the cliff down, and there's kind of like this gate, but you see the sun like setting. And I remember you just grabbed me and you like we started kissing, and something within me tells me like, oh, this is your person. Like you're in love with this person. Like, and I was just like, oh shit. Like, it was literally a shift in that moment. I'm like, oh my God, I am in love with this man. Like, oh my God, like, I literally am in love. Like, we've been spending so much time, like, our friendship, like, it just started to develop to something more. And I really never thought that that's where we were going to go. But my spirit within and my heart told me, like, in that moment, in that kiss, which I was supposed to bring the photo. I don't want to get up and like go get it, but I do have that photo. We took a picture, and maybe if I remember on this clip, I'll go ahead and post it on the reel so you guys can see that photo. And that was the moment that I was like, wow, I'm in love with
beautiful picture.
Adam.
A great
Yes.
timing there. I do need to pat myself on the back some.
Don't get ahead
Literally,
of
the
yourself
picture is
now.
like us kissing, and the sun is like setting in between us in the picture, and you got kind of that little glare
Blair.
flash, the
Hmm.
lens flare from the sun right between us
No, it
as
was
we're like
perfect. It was
perfect,
perfect. It
perfect
was
moment,
perfect.
Adam. Great job.
Great job. So we keep hanging out. We're having a great time. We meet up with your friend later. We're like partying with them. And, I don't want to spend too much time on like all the things that we did, but just kind of more like the bullet points of what we did on that trip. So the next day we went to El Yunque, which is a rainforest in Puerto Rico. We went for a nice hike. That was a really good time. Is there anything that you wanted to
We went to a
touch?
waterfall, and the waterfall was gorgeous, but the water was freezing. It's coming off the mountain, and I don't like cold water. To all my people that do the cold water plunges and the ice baths, I commend you. I'm a little wuss when it comes to cold water. But it's like, shoot, I'm in a rainforest in Puerto Rico on top of a mountain in a waterfall. What am I not going to get in? You got to kind of seize the moment. So I jumped in that waterfall. It was beautiful. We had a great little adventure in the rainforest. I got to
We
hear the
did.
coquis for the first time. They have
Hmm.
these little frogs in Puerto Rico that make this very distinct coqui noise, and so they're called coquis.
Mhm, mhm. So we had such a great time. We were just vibing, like literally, guys. We were having a great time. We were even calling each other babe on this trip. I remember we started saying babe to each other, but there was nothing official. We weren't saying any official things. We were just going with the flow. We're like,
You
yeah.
were still my lady friend. You weren't my girlfriend. No.
No, I was still the lady friend. So then the following day, we start driving to go to this airport because I had planned for us to go to this small island called Culebra, which is part of Puerto Rico. And I have been dying to go to this island to go to their beach, which is Flamenco Beach. And so we go, we head out early. I remember we're like driving, and then I don't know what happened to the GPS, but it was taking us to like the wrong direction, or like I think it was like an empty land. I can't remember what is it or where it
We
was.
we had some problems with the GPS, but we lost reception.
Oh yeah, that's
And
right.
we're on a timeline trying to make this airplane because they're like, if you don't get here, we're leaving you. And we had already booked the flight. So we're driving in like this countryside of Puerto Rico, no reception, early in the morning, early to catch an early flight. And we're lost and we can't really use our phones to figure it out. And so I'm like looking for anyone. I see a cop driving. I like floor it, chase this cop honking. We're gonna get your attention. We get his attention, and he gives us directions to the airport. We make it to the airport late, and they're like, well, you're too late." Jovi does some magic in Spanish that I didn't understand at the time, and they let us on the flight, and we got to fly to Culebra. And getting to Flamenco Beach, we got there like right as the sun was coming up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
no one's on the beach yet. It's like white powder sand,
Mm-hmm.
overlooking like a beautiful turquoise lagoon. You have the green rainforest mountains on one side, so it's just I fell in love. It was like literally heaven. I love empanadas, and they were selling shark meat empanadas, and oh, I started eating these empanadas. It was so good. We're chilling on this powder sand, and this guy comes by, and he's like, "Do you want to swim with the turtles? Swim with the turtles!" And that became our line. Jovi and I, we have these lines from like various places, and that was
We still
definitely
use
one
it
of
to this
our
day.
lines for like years. Anytime we see the ocean, we like, "Hey, do you want to swim with the turtles?" He was selling snorkeling gear, and I guess that was his line to sell the snorkeling gear. But it was hilarious. But that day was just like a magical day in
That was
Culebra.
beautiful.
And I still haven't been able to go back. But we'll go to Puerto Rico again, and we'll go to Flamenco Beach.
Yes, we will. I mean, if you have been wanting to visit, please go. Like this place is so special. The energy there is like no other. Puerto Rico just the energy there is like no other. Like I know that I'm from there and I have so much like orgullo, like pride from being there, but like there's something so special about Puerto Rico. So, we head back from Culebra and we're having a great time. Then the following day, we
Is that the
do
horseback? Yeah.
we do the horseback riding. Adam's like, "Yeah, I can't wait. This has been amazing. You planned such a great trip. This is gonna be like the cherry on top." And look at Adam like with his little like game of like, "Oh, I want to do something like romantical." And we're not even like in a relationship, guys. Look at him. So, we get to this place and we get to this ranch and they're giving us horses, but they're all asking the people that work there, they're asking us like, "Hey, do you guys have any type of experience? Can you open your window a little bit because you're getting dark?" There we go. Quick pause to
Quick
make
pause for the visual effects.
yeah,
Hey, there we go.
we want to make sure we can see you. Thank you. Um so they're asking everybody like, "Hey, do you have experience with horses, etc.?" And me, I'm like, "No." Like, and it doesn't matter, like I've done horseback riding back then, but I'm always like, "Yeah, I'm just beginner. Like give me the beginner horse and the nicest horse that you have, and then I'm gonna let you talk about your experience
That's
because
my
the way you."
smart wife.
Yeah.
That's my smart wife. So first, like I'll back up. I was in my like European dress era after coming out of my urban era. And I used to never wear shorts that would like even show my knees. But then I'm like went all the way the other way. And I'm in my like short bathing suits, thighs and hammies all out showing and like a tank top. And so they ask, what is your experience with horses? Have you ever ridden a horse before? I'm like, yeah, I've ridden horses. I know what I'm doing. And he's like, "What? You rode one horse?" And I'm like, "This guy, no, I know what I'm doing." And like he goes, "Okay," and then he goes, "Traiga Volcom," to the guy in the back, like, "Bring Volcom." That's the name of this horse, right? And I should have known at that moment, but I was like a little bit in my pride, like I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna like still having this picture in my head, bro. This horse, they bring it to me, and I'm like trying to be sweet with it at first, like, all right, I'm gonna be riding you today, like talking to him, and he's just looking back at me. It's a horse, he doesn't talk, but so I get on this horse and we're all riding, and it's like a little bit of a group. It's me, Jovi, another couple, and another couple. And one of the other couples has this girl from like Ohio, and she's an equestrian. She rides horses. She knows what she's doing. Like she's serious business. Pissing off the tour guide because she doesn't want to listen to him. She just wants to do what she wants with the horse. But back to me, this Volcom did not want to listen to me. All he wanted to do was run at full speed. And I'm trying to have like a nice like riding next to Jovi, holding her hand, but I'm like holding on these reins, and the horse is like, "Nah, you're a bitch. I'm gonna do what I want to do." And I'm struggling with this horse, like having a battle the whole time that we go like through the river and to the beach. The tour guide is like taking videos of us on our phones. We'll come back to that later because we didn't know what he said until we watched the video, and that was hilarious. But this horse is giving me the biggest pain in my ass, wanting to run, sprint. I'm fighting with him the whole time. Jovi's having the magical experience by herself on this horse that just wants to walk really slow and like go really calm. But Volcom was a pain in my ass. And we get to the beach, and they're like, "All right, you, I guess, have some time to relax." And Jovi's like in the ocean, like, "Come hang out." And I'm like defeated because this horse has been kicking my ass. And so I go like have a pep talk, like a halftime game talk with myself. I'm like, "You're a man and this is an animal. You got to show that animal who's boss." And I didn't want to, because the things are attached to their teeth, bro. You don't want to like yank it. I feel like being in pain,
Hurt.
but I mean, Volcom he didn't care. And so I like got my head in the game while Jovi's like having this serene, like relaxing on her back in the ocean, like floating on the waves. And I'm like in front of a tree talking to myself. Like, get your head in the game. What are you doing? You're gonna let this horse ruin your time? And so up to that point, do you have anything that you wanted to add? How was it from your experience or your side for the first half of the ride?
I mean, it was great for me. I was just like, damn, like Adam's trying to like chill, but this horse kept like going. So, but it's so funny because as you're saying it, I remember like I was like, oh, maybe just Adam wants to like race with this horse, and have fun because I wasn't aware until you got to me and like you were able to slow down the horse just for a little bit. You're like, hey man, like I'm trying to be next to you, but the horse just wants to take off. And I'll be like, oh my God. So when we got to the beach before we had our rest time, I remember like the guy was like, oh, get together to take pictures. And we were like literally taking kissing pictures. I'm telling you, like, we were really acting like we were a couple, but we weren't a couple here. Like we were just like, all right, let's go all in. Let's see what this feels like. So yeah, once we got to the beach, like I'm in the water. I literally have a Corona in my hand. I'm like in the water chilling. I'm like, babe, come be with me. And he's just like, no, he was just like in this pissed off mode, like with this face. And he's like, I got to figure out what I'm going to do with this horse when we get back. So it was really interesting. But for me, it was amazing. But it was just so funny because you were just so caught up in like that's what you wanted the experience to be for Puerto Rico. And it was just like one of like, I mean, I'm not gonna say it was the worst experience you've had, but it was just like, damn, it was a challenge. It was a challenge.
It was not what I envisioned. And like it's that old saying comes to mind, we plan and God laughs.
Yeah.
Now on the way back, I had much more control of the horse. Like I wasn't giving him any freedom, any leeway. Like literally, I'm like, all right, you want me to be this way, then I'll be this way in order to control you.
Hmm.
And there was a moment where the girl that was the horse rider, was like galloping ahead of us. The tour guide is like frustrated, and she's about like 50, 60 yards ahead of us, like half a football field. And I'm like, all right, Volcom, let's actually see what you can do. You know, you want to run? We'll run. Um, and keep in mind, this girl is galloping on her horse.
Mhm.
Volcom took off, and I'm like holding on for dear life. And I feel like we flew by this girl, and she was at a full gallop, a full run. I'm like, damn, this horse is fast, fast. And I'm trying to get him to stop, so I like yank, 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 and he does like one of these like little rear things. I'm like, oh my god, don't die. And me and my, wisdom at the time with my short shorts, I'm like having all these marks from the straps,
Very
like
bummer.
cutting into my like legs, bleeding. Like, bro, the horse was the worst part of Puerto Rico. And I don't think I've ridden a horse since then. I don't think I've gotten on another horse in the last 10 years. I mean, we did the camel in Egypt and I'm good off camels. Um, but no,
No.
I haven't gotten on another horse in 10 and it's not like I ride horses all the time before this, but there's no more interest in me riding a horse. That damn Volcom ruined it for me.
It was definitely an experience and a memory that we'll never forget because we always talk about it and it always comes up in some type of way. So we get back, okay, from horseback riding. And we're at the Airbnb and I think we're like watching our videos. And at one point, we're like listening to the video and we feel like the guy is trying to say troublemaker friends because he's like recording us like, hey, look at my friends on the horse, my troublemaker friends. And we're like, is he saying troublemaker friends or travel maker friends? And ever since then, that's been our tagline, like travel maker friends, like seriously,
Travel
because
maker.
yeah,
Yeah.
travel maker friends. And it's been one of our taglines. And honestly, like if we really look back, like that's where the spirit of our traveling was, like where it commenced, right? Because we have traveled so much. We were literally talking about that yesterday on our way back home from Puerto Rico. And we were just like, wow, like we've traveled so much. Like, if there's one thing about our relationship, like we love to travel. Like, we're very adventurous, we're very childlike, we love to explore. And yeah, that's where travel makers came from. So we get ready and we're gonna go dancing now. And we're heading to Rio Piedra. It's a city in Puerto Rico, and we meet up with Adam's friend and the former girlfriend at the time. And we're having such a good time. They're playing live music. We're dancing salsa. Then outside they were playing the drums and like people were like
Oh, they had a little
dancing.
tambore, yeah.
Yeah, like we were just like dancing, like the tambor, and Adam got into the middle and he was dancing too. Like we were having such a good time. Like we were vibing. So I'm a little buzzed. Adam's pretty buzzed too, and we're dancing and like he turns me over to like face him and he's like hugging me and he's like I love you so much, like I have this thing for you, but it's just like I'm not ready to like commit to you. And like for me in that moment, like it literally shattered me because I'm just like, damn it, I'm here on this trip and this is where I'm in love with you, and I'm like ready to just say yes to this relationship. But I had to honor and respect where you were because, you had recently not, I mean, it was a while already since you've, broken up from like your ex, like it was already like 5, 6 months. But for me, I was just like, okay, like, I have to
Well, it
like
wasn't
respect.
it wasn't about that for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready to date you because in my mind, if we were gonna date, it was dating to marry.
Hmm.
I wasn't just trying to be your boyfriend. In my mind, it was like, all right, this is going to be the courtship before we get married.
Hmm.
And in my mind, that meant for me, okay, if I date Jovi with the intention to marry her, that means I'm never gonna have sex with another person.
Mm.
And I wasn't ready at that time to commit to that. I saw, I mean, my past. My dad remarried twice after the divorce of my parents. I was his best man both of those times. And he was married before my mom. So my dad had four marriages. My mom had a marriage before my dad, married my dad when they divorced. She didn't remarry, but she has a son with a man that she can't stand.
Mm.
She can't even talk. She can't even hear his name without getting pissed off. And so these were the mistakes that my parents made that I was like, I have to avoid these mistakes. I had marriage on such a pedestal. And in my mind, dating you meant, all right, that's it. We're going to date and then we're going to get married. And that's the end of my single career, my sexual conquest, which at that point was still something deeply ingrained in me. And so
Mhm.
I wasn't ready to commit. I wasn't ready for the relationship just due to that one thing.
Mhm.
Everything else was perfect. We
Mhm.
vibed. We had such a great time together. We had such tremendous respect for each other. And this is really the reason. It's that tremendous respect that
Mhm.
I had for you. I wasn't willing to start dating you and then fall back into the patterns that I had my whole life.
Mhm.
And so we had this respect. We had this beautiful friendship. We enjoyed our time. We could have fun together. And we have such similar upbringings and similar backgrounds. But because of that one thing, I was like, nah. And going back to the honesty, going back to the killing the moment in order to be honest, in order to truly respect you, I'm not going to just let the good times flow. I need to make sure you understand where I'm at.
Mhm.
And so I told her this, and I told her this in the car again. And then me being a little bit, buzzy buzzed, I fell asleep in the car and probably started snoring because I snore when I drink.
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, as I'm, like, listening to you, now I'm gonna get emotional.
Oh man.
Because it really, like, comes down to, like, where I'm at in my life with all the healing stuff that is going on, and I know eventually, like, I'll be able to, like, talk about that, but it really started back there because you're like, wow, like, this woman is here, like, I love her, but I have a lot of respect for her. Like, you have respected my energy so much and who I am and the values that I have to offer. And for you to be that honest with yourself is you truly respecting our relationship,
Mhm.
like, and to that extent, so as Adam fell asleep in the car, I'm experiencing all these emotions and I'm just like crying. He's not aware because he's knocked out and I'm driving us back to the Airbnb and I'm crying because I'm like, oh my god, like, I want to be with him, like, this is a dope relationship, like, and this is so cool, and like, and we talk about this all the time, like, we literally love our relationship. Like, we're like, we have such a dope marriage, and at that time I was thinking, I was like, bro, we're so cool together, like, we just vibe, like, we get each other, we have similar upbringings, like, we had this amazing trip. It's been so fun. So I'm crying because I'm like,
Can you
I don't
pause
even
for a
know.
second?
Yeah.
I feel like the relationship is what it is because of these mood killing moments that we would do to each other.
I
And
mean,
we
we still do
still
them.
do to this day. Like, hey, I know things are going well, but nah, time to have a state of the union. Time to get real and raw. And there are going to be possible consequences for what I'm going to say. And the consequences could be that this relationship ends.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not willing to lose it, you will never have it 100%.
Woo. That line.
You really need to be willing to risk it in order to have it.
Yeah.
And I was willing to put it all on the line again and again and again, and you were too, and you'll talk about that,
Mm-hmm.
in order to really keep the purity, the honesty, the trust, the respect. And this is why the relationship is the way it is because we have these tough conversations whenever they need to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I'm trying to like go back. So I'm in the car and I start to feel all these feels. So we get to the Airbnb. Adam goes to the room and just like knocks out. And I'm in the living room just crying because I'm like, I love him so much, God. Like, what is happening to me right now? Like, why? But in another aspect, I had to talk to myself and be like, well, you need to let this thing go. You have like, because my mind was creating like, well, maybe we're not going to get together, or maybe I'll fall in love with somebody else, or maybe he's going to fall in love with somebody else. Like, there was just so many things, but I'm like, okay, but I have to honor and respect where he's at. I'm not going to force him to be with me because I don't jam out that way, like at all. In any relationship, I am not trying to force any type of relation to happen. Like it should always naturally flow. So I remember calling my best friend Lynette, and she's my roommate at the time, and I'm calling her and she's like, what's wrong? And I was telling her, I'm like, I love him so much, but he's not ready, and this trip has been so great. Like, if you just see, we're so great together. Like, why can he not see it, and but I had to again honor and respect where you were at the time, and the beliefs you had about commitment, and the beliefs you had about marriage, so um that was our last night in Puerto Rico. So we wake up the next day, we're good, we're fine, we're still hanging out, we're talking, and then we head to the airport to come back home. And we're going to leave it there for that story. And in episode 4, we will talk about what happened when we came back from Puerto Rico. But since we're in the energy of Puerto Rico, we're going to talk about our recent trip right now to Puerto Rico.
10
Be-
years later, we decided to go back.
10 years
And
later.
really,
Mm-hmm.
the intention of this trip was threefold. Well, one, we wanted to be intimate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to have time for just me and you to get away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Two, we're planning for a retreat in Puerto Rico, and we wanted to visit this one specific retreat house. And oh man, the place that we visited was so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing, like secluded, beautiful home, very kind of rustic feel. It overlooks the rainforest and a valley. It's up on top of a mountain, and it overlooks a valley. And you see the sky and the trees, and you can see waterfalls in the distance. And it's just we when we got to the porch where we're going to plan a lot of activities that we're going to be doing, we were just my breath was taken away looking at this view. And I'll let you talk about the retreat house and where we visited before I get into the third intention.
Oh, I was gonna just go into all the intentions, but you went another way, but that's okay too. So yeah, so that was one of the intentions. So be on the lookout because we are going to be doing a women and men's retreat in Puerto Rico, hopefully June, July. So yeah, so this retreat center found me,
Mm.
and it popped up on my feed, and I don't know, I saw it and there was just like a calling to it. I reached out to them, I DM'd them, and I was telling them, hey, I'm going to be in Puerto Rico for 3 days with my husband. We want to do a retreat there. I am from Puerto Rico, like, well, I was raised, half Puerto Rican, and like I have a connection to the island, and I would love to do a retreat, and see if I can come see the center. So the owner of the retreat center like calls me, and he's great. He's like, tell me about your story. I hear a little bit about him and how he's like, Puerto Rico found me too, because he had a lot of resistance towards Puerto Rico. And, he's like, yeah, come on over, come the day that, you guys arrive on Thursday, and I'll give you guys like a little tour. So we get to the place, And when we got there, we were just like, literally, when we got off the car, we were just like, what is this? Because it's at the end of a mountain. Like, they're at the end of the mountain. And I'm just like, what? Like, the views, the place, like, it gave me, yes, that rustic feel, but you can feel a lot of love. You can feel a lot of peace. You can feel just the connection there. Like, it was amazing, amazing, amazing. And so we look at everything. He shows us all the rooms. He tells us about, his journey and how he opened actually another retreat center before this one in Colombia, in Medellin. And it's so cool that we were in Medellin in
Mhm.
August, so but my just like my spirit calls, like, Puerto Rico. So we're just talking, we're vibing, we're hanging out. He's telling us about how he used to do entertainment, a lot, and was into like party scenes and all this stuff. And I was like, how did you get to just like having a place like this, So it was fun. And then so we're done with the tour, and he's like, you guys have your swimming trunks or your swimming stuff with you guys? And we're like, yeah. He's like, come on, I'm gonna show you guys where I live, which is down the road. We're gonna get on this go-kart, and then I'm gonna take you guys to a waterfall. And we're like, what? Okay. Like, we didn't have any expectations, and we didn't really have plans other than to check into the place that I had booked for us, which we'll talk about how that was a surprise for you. But going into the to getting into the go-kart, he shows us the place that he's staying at. He's giving us water with like fresh lemon from the garden. We go up to the tree house. We're like seeing these views, and I'm telling you, spectacular views of nature. Like, it felt so peaceful. And I'm taking you back, right? Because I'm there right now, because we literally was just there, So um so we get ready, and he's like, all right, we're gonna hike down to the waterfall. And he's like, you don't need your shoes, like, go barefooted. And I was like, what? Like, this is so cool. Like, I've never done this before. He gives us sticks, and
Walking sticks. Yeah.
walking sticks, yeah. And we start heading down the trail, and literally we're feeling the mud between our toes, like the leaves, like the branches. We're just going into this whole experience. And we get to this waterfall, and we're climbing through these rocks, and I'm just in awe with everything. I'm just like, God, you have been such a huge blessing. Like, this is such a miracle, that an expectation. I had no expectation that's what we were gonna do, because that was not planned. And we had such a good time. Do you want to share anything from that experience?
Yeah, so it was a nice little adventure and trek. We got to the waterfall, and Joey kind of assumes the crossed leg position. He starts meditating, giving Jovi and I room to kind of like talk to each other and be with each other and really enjoy the waterfall, just me and her. Even though he's there, he shuts his eyes, he retreats into his center, and me and Jovi are just kind of like looking at each other and talking and like just wow, this is gorgeous. We didn't bring our phones on the hike. Otherwise, we'd have pictures to share from this spot.
I
But
do have pictures.
oh, you did bring your
Yes.
phone. Okay, well, stay tuned. We're gonna post some of those pictures too, and
Yeah.
we invite you to this retreat in the summer. We'll post more information about it, but just wow,
It was great.
you really just can't describe the beauty of Puerto Rico and specifically the areas that we went. Uh, and then the third intention for this recent trip to Puerto Rico was for us to put energy and put intention into limitless living, which we're doing on February 8th. So just here in a couple weeks.
Hmm.
And really, whenever you teach something, well, everybody knows the old adage, when you give, you receive. And if you've actually given somebody your time and given somebody truly out of your heart, you know that you do receive so much more back. Like it really is, as you're giving, you're receiving.
Yeah.
But the same thing holds true with teaching. When you teach something and you're really embodying it, you're the one that is taught the most.
Hmm.
And so as we're putting, that's the third intention, is we're going to put energy, we're going to put uh intention and just more into the retreat that we have coming up. Go through the workbook, go through all the things, but I'll let you take it away because you booked a place and you're like, oh, we have a surprise coming, and we got an upgrade to the surprise, and I'm like, okay, cool. I like to go in with my eyes closed, not knowing anything beforehand, so that way I can really experience it without expectations. Like going back to the horse, I learned my lesson there. That was the true lesson. Don't have expectations, otherwise you'll be disappointed. So I like to go in just completely blind and open. But I'll let you take it away from here.
Yeah. So when okay, so originally I have been feeling called, my spirit was feeling called to go to Puerto Rico. Like something's been telling me like you got to go to Puerto Rico. You got to go to Puerto Rico. And then another retreat center had popped up, and within when I had saw it, I sent the video. Everything's okay?
Yeah, I had a plug in my computer.
Okay. So, I lost my train of thought. Okay. 1 second, 2 second, 3 second. Okay, here we go. So I find this retreat center and I send it to Adam. And I was like, oh my God, look at this place. Like, we should stay here. This is not the retreat center that came to me, the one that we just went to. It was another one. And I was like, oh, okay, like they serve like vegan food. Like, a lot of people go here, but it's not like a planned retreat. It's more like it offers yoga, it offers Reiki and sound healing and etc. But you can book the place to have your own retreats there. So we were gonna stay there originally. I was like, okay, this is the place I'm gonna book. But I'm a Libra, guys. Like I like options, you know? And I don't know. I one day I was just like, I'm gonna go through Airbnb and I want to see maybe some cool other places that they may have around the island. And then this listing comes up, and I was like, oh my God, like I want to go here. Like this is immersed in nature. We're literally gonna be by ourselves, like privately. Nobody else is gonna be on the property. And when I book the time that we're gonna stay, it says like it's 650 for 2 nights. And then I'm like being like, do I go? Do I not go? The other place is this, and then like my spirit was like, just press pay, and then like I pressed pay, and I was like, and then I was so happy and lit up inside, and I'm like, but I don't share this with Adam. Adam's thinking we're staying at the retreat center place, but he doesn't look up things. Like I send him things, and he doesn't really explore. He's just like, oh, okay, cool, but doesn't go in like I do, like planning these things. So so I booked the place inside. I'm like, I have shared with a couple people, look where I'm taking Adam. Then he's like, oh my God, he doesn't know. Like, I was like, no, he doesn't. Oh, and there's another story I have to tell you after we get off from the podcast. So
Okay.
remind me. So that happens. And then we leave the retreat center. So now we're gonna we're gonna go into the Airbnb. So Adam's driving. Oh no, am I driving or you're driving? No, you're
No, I
driving.
was driving. Yeah.
You were driving. So we left Ciales, Puerto Rico, and then we drive like to no. We weren't no, we weren't in Ciales. Was it Ciales? I can't
Yeah,
remember now.
it's north of Ponce. Is I know where we went, but
Yeah,
the
Ciales.
location specificity here, Jovi with her
Yeah,
specifics,
yeah, yeah,
like from episode 2.
yeah.
We weren't in Cialis. We were in this very specific. It doesn't matter, my
It
love.
doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm like losing my train of thought. But anyways, so we get to the Airbnb, right? And Adam's kind of like, okay, like we have to put this pin code to get the keys. So we go through this red door gate, which guys, Spirit was telling me something about a red door. So when I see the red door, I'm like, wait, there's no coincidence to why we're like I literally got the chills when we got and I saw the red gate. And then we go through this other door and Adam's like, yo, where are we right now? Like he's like so confused. And then we get to the third door. This is how private it is and like a lot of security for this
And
place
each door has a lock,
and each door
and
has a
so
lock with
like
a
no
key.
one is gonna be near us.
No, at all. So I finally opened the door, and Adam's
I'm
like,
carrying the bags down the stairs.
yeah. He's like, "What? This is where we're staying?" And I'm like, "Yeah, surprise." Babe, oh my god. You killed it. You killed it.
It was amazing. I see this like glass teepee and like a blue pool, and they got all these beautiful uplights, and I hear like a fountain. It's not a fountain, it's a creek. And it was just an amazing thing. And if you follow us on Instagram, you probably see all the videos and the pictures. But
Yeah.
what a surprise! What a surprise! It was. You did a great job. You did. I was blown away. And we had a great time that night, the next day, the following morning.
Mhm.
Um, we really put a lot of we were able to accomplish the goals of the being intimate with each other, but also putting a lot of energy into the limitless living retreat. And you can kind of bring us or run us through the different things that we did.
Yeah.
But I remember that first night your knee started hurting you coming down the stairs,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you immediately went into kind of an old program. Oh, I got to get my legs strong, I got to go hard at the gym. And I'm like, wait, 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 we're like in our mid late 30s, and we flew on an airplane and then drove, and we're very like sitting down sedentary, and then we went on this really difficult hike barefoot. And
Mhm.
that's we didn't warm up, we didn't do any stretching, we didn't get our joints ready. So like calm down, give yourself a little bit of grace.
Mhm.
Maybe it's not your muscles, maybe it's just that we didn't actually treat our bodies well on this hike that we went on.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that was a really nice conversation for us to be able to kind of dig into the way that we process things, the way that we think, how we immediately jump into persecuting ourselves, so to speak.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for bringing that up. So for for this trip, it was really nice because we were really intentional with the day. When we had that Friday that we were all day at the location, like we literally made breakfast in the morning. Like we took ourselves like to the pool and we relaxed a little bit, and then we did some stretches. We are like, okay, like we have the creek. We had a private creek for us that we can explore. And before that, we were just like, hey, like why don't we do some stretches and some yoga? We ended up doing that. Then we went down to the creek and we did a present moment awareness meditation that you led us through. And it was so nice because we were able to talk about what we were seeing, what we were experiencing, what we were hearing,
Smelling,
smelling,
feeling.
like feeling. And it was so cool because it just reminds me of like the different perspectives that all of us have, right? Based on what is it that we want to see, or what is it that we're seeing in front of us, right? Like I would see something and then you would see something else, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is how perspective and having different lenses work, because we're not going to be able to catch everything around us, so it was just so cool to be like, hey, I see this, or hey, do you hear this, or do you feel this? And it was such a nice like 20-minute meditation that we did together. And then we started hiking the creek, and that was fun because like we were literally like getting down like on our knees and like jumping different rocks, and I'm here like acting like a little girl, and I'm like,
You
I'm
said this line.
Pocahontas. I'm half I'm half Pocahontas. I'm half grandmother Willow, and I'm a little bit of a princess too, and so childlike. It was so nice. We got to a point where we were just like throwing rocks. We were trying to like hit another rock. We were like, okay, we're gonna hit this rock. We were so present, so present. We were skipping rocks. We were having such a good time. Like it was so so innocent, so like seeing the world new, and just like being in awe of really God's creation. Like I'm just like, babe, like God is so expansive. Look at like everywhere from the sun and how the sun was hitting the creek and the glitter on the river and it was just so much and we immersed ourselves in every single moment there. And it was really beautiful. And then from there, we come up and we chilled for a little bit and then we're like, okay, we're gonna put some intention behind the retreat. And we literally took probably what, like 2-3 hours, like.
It started flowing. I started writing some notes, going through the agenda of the previous retreat, and then all the new learning that I've had since the last retreat started to come to the front of my mind. And I shared what I was writing down. You started going off of what I was saying, and we just bounced off of each other for hours.
Mhm,
And just rediscovering these things, looking at the old limiting beliefs that we had and which still applied to us versus what we've let go and moved past. But
mhm.
then it's like, all right, now what new limiting beliefs do we have? Because
Yeah,
we have them, and exploring that and figuring that out. Going back to when you teach something, you're the one that's taught the most. We don't have much time, but I do want to get into the breath work that we
yeah.
did together.
Yeah,
All right, so
so let's talk about that. So we put that intention of limitless living and we had so many ideas, things that we wanted to do. We were like, we're going to do breath work, we're going to do present moment awareness, we're going to do Reiki, we're going to do a little bit of tantra, we're going to do like we were just ready to do all these different things and just explore. So at one point I told Adam, I was like, okay, I would like for you to hold space and facilitate a breathwork session for me. I've already done one with him, and I've seen him do it in groups, but I was feeling called to do another one. So,
you
um,
asked me, how long is it going to take?
yes,
And I was
yes,
like, we need to dedicate at least an hour to it.
yes.
And
So I wanna talk about this. Okay, so the work when it comes to doing the work, right, guys? So this is the thing: the mind will do anything in its power. The ego, the mind, will do anything in its power for you not to do the work. It will be like, how long is it going to take? What are we going to do? It wants all the expectations, it wants all the things. So when he told me, hey, we're going to do a breathwork session for an hour, like literally my brain first was like, really? An hour? But my higher self knows better. And I was like, oh, hi, ego. You're going to take a back seat because, yes, we're going to go inward and we're going to shatter some stuff. And now I know that you're being a little bit worried and you're a little bit scared, but it's okay. We're going to get through it and we're going to connect even more. And we'll talk more about this too, but it's like that's where you bring light to your shadows, guys. Your shadows don't want that light, but this is how you have to be courageous enough to be like, no, 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 I'm bringing light to my shadows, because there's something that the ego doesn't want you to see. There's something that your subconscious doesn't want you to see. It wants you to keep running in this program. So, that being said, we get into the room because I was like, hey, I think it'd be best for us to do it in the room because I want to be comfortable. And Adam plays a playlist.
so
Like
hold
you pick.
on. So
Okay.
some of the people that are listening might not be aware of what breath work is.
Mhm.
So breath work, it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but essentially you're breathing in a different way than normal and you have somebody guiding you, and it can be a very, very intense breath for a prolonged period of time, and breathing in that way will actually bring you to an altered state of consciousness. And that altered state of consciousness allows us to have certain breakthroughs, certain learnings. It gives us experiences that generally aren't available to us without it. And it's very similar to like when people do mushrooms or ayahuasca and they have these intense breakthroughs, these life changing moments, or maybe even a near death experience, and somebody can see God or see their life played back to them, and it leads to changes in their life. It literally life changing moments, and you know we do this, and we have the ability to do this just through our breath. Um, and it's kind of like something, once you see it, you can never unsee it. And
Mhm.
so we decided to do some breath work, and I was gonna hold space for Jovi. Um, I'll let you tell your story, your experience of the breath work, and then I'll tell my experience of it.
Yeah. So I know we're getting a little bit like over our time. So, and also I have to use the bathroom. So I'm gonna make it like a little bit quick, but we can talk about this more. I think we should definitely do like a little sit down video
Yeah,
on this,
it
so
should
we can
be
just
its
talk
own
about the
thing because it
yeah.
was so profound,
It
so
was
profound
very,
for both
very,
of us.
very for both of us. So let me go a little bit into it. So we get ready. I'm like, okay, I let my mind do what it needed to do, but I'm like, hey, I don't care like what it is that you're feeling, we're still gonna do it. So we go into the room. I lay down on the bed, and Adam puts a playlist on, and he starts to guide me. So he's guiding me through these different cycles. And what came up for me in my experience, I've had so many different ceremonies, so many journeys, but in this journey, there was one moment when I like connected back to my ancestry. And I remember that I was like dressed up, but then had like paint on my face, and I had a snake around me. And like it was like a very tribal area. We were like around fire. And something about Puerto Rico always ignites that part of me, like because I have Taina ancestry in me. So being there, I guess it just ignited. And it was so interesting because that day we saw two snakes. So I was just like, what the hell is going on? And guys, this is the year of the snake too. So whatever that message was there for me, it was very deep and very profound. Like it felt like it was the message was telling me like there's a rebirth that's coming. So which the snake has meaning on that. So then when we go into the second cycle of the breath work, I start to feel this warrior essence of myself. And it was like I was dressed like that time, like the gladiators, but it was like a woman, and I was dressed in this like shield. And I was basically like a leader for a town, for like a tribe, a community. And, I would like help a lot of people. I was like serving people, and people were coming to me to like help breakthroughs to certain things, but it was like very warrior like. And I remember there was a point where I feel that Jesus is calling me. And this is not the first time I experienced Jesus in my meditations or any type of ceremony. Like me and Jesus are like this. Like we're like that's my dude. That's my best friend. And I remember he called onto me. And I remember I went to my place and I went into a white dress, like very flowy dress. Now you see me in this like very like feminine aspect. And I go meet him in a temple. And now he's not like on a throne or on a chair or anything like that. He's like sitting by these steps, and like he's just being very casual. And he's like, come over here, my daughter. Like, let's talk. And I remember I was like sitting in front of him, and I'm like, man, this is hard, like it's so hard sometimes to like lead. There's so many challenges, and there's some people that are very hard-headed. And it always that point kind of reminded me of like how he felt as he was when he was like with his disciples, and how he would get upset, like why aren't they not getting it, you know what I mean, like. And that's what I was going to him for. I was just like, I just don't understand how people are not getting it, and he was like, it's okay, my child, like I am with you at every given moment. And I remember at one point in the session that I'm experiencing all of this, I remember I have my hand like this, and I kind of like lean onto his knee, and like just like this, and he's caressing me, right? And he was like, it's okay, my daughter, like I love you unconditionally, you are enough just as you are. But then all of a sudden, guys, bro, Adam starts to speak what Jesus was telling me in this ceremony. Like I don't even know how is it that we got attuned at the same time. Like, how does he, like, wait, like, is Adam feeling him? Like, he's not under with me. Like, it was so insane. I'm like, he was speaking it through Adam, like literally using Adam's vessel to speak the words. He was like, I love you, daughter. You are safe with me. You are doing amazing. Like all these words. And I'm just like Jesus is here talking to me, and he was talking through you. And that was just so powerful and so profound. And I want you to talk about what was it in that moment that you felt, so we can wrap up this, this episode. What was it that you felt in that moment for you to just speak those things?
So you left to, go use the bathroom. I just looked up like holotropic breathing playlist. Put on some music. You came back in, and before I do this, I always pray. I pray to God. I ask him for his help, his guidance, that I will be decreased so that way it's him rather than me putting my own intentions, my own ego, what I think needs to happen. But I felt like a little voice say, "Get on your knees and pray." And so I got down on my knees to pray before we did the ceremony. Um, and this really goes back. I want to mention, so I want to be a vessel. I want to be an instrument, a tool of God. And so as I'm doing these sessions for you, first round is 7 minutes on, 7 minute rest. And you had a little bit of crying in that first session.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're leading or facilitating something and people are demonstrating physically, that they're having some breakthroughs or that they're experiencing something, it gives you kind of like confidence. But then, that was like in the first couple minutes. We kept going. We did a round, like a round of rest. We did another round, and this round was much longer. And then we got to the rest period. And so we've gone about 25 minutes, 30 minutes without me really even seeing any reaction in you. And normally you have very vocal reactions. You cry, you scream, you shout, you do what you have to do to release the tension or the energy, but you're silent this whole time. And so the doubt starts creeping up. Oh, is this working? I don't feel like it's working. And going back to the being an instrument, I had this realization in a previous retreat, a men's retreat that I was leading, where I got to do this one exercise that I've been wanting to do for 3 years. I got to lead it. And when I led this exercise, I didn't feel any emotional release at all by leading it. And when I asked God why, what's going up with this? And he's like, "Do you want to be my instrument, or are you chasing after an emotional high? Does the hammer need to feel happy when it hits the nail? Or is the hammer doing its job of hitting the nail?" And I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't about me. This isn't about my feelings. This isn't about my doubt. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to be doing my best. I'm going to continue facilitating. And we get into the second rest period after the second round. And I hear this little voice inside of me. It's a whisper. And it says, "I love you, my child, my cherished daughter. I love you." And I'm like, okay, I feel like I need to say this to her. Um, but I'm like, all right, but am I talking as God, or am I gonna do father wounds? Am I gonna speak as her earthly father or as her heavenly father? And because if I'm going earthly father, then I'm going to kind of pull on the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is, apologizing. "I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me," and going down this path. But if I'm going heavenly father, I'm not using the "I'm sorries." It's more about affirming you. And a couple minutes goes by and I didn't say it. A couple minutes goes by and I hear it again. But all I hear is, "I love you, my child. You are my cherished daughter." And I'm like, all right, I'm going to say it. And so I say it. I love you, child. You are my cherished daughter. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm listening to this little voice. And uh, I don't know, but let me just do it. And we get through the third round. After the third round, we do the rest period. And then I bring back her nervous system with way, way, way more slower breathing.
Wait, hold on. I want to finish a little bit after of
Yeah.
what you just mentioned. So we go through that. I go through that. And then literally like the playlist plays. So I went from strong warrior to daughter softness to then I start to hear the music and literally Jesus like, yo, you hearing these tunes? And like he starts like bobbing his head. And I start bobbing my head and we're like having this dance fest and I start giggling like through my session. Like laughing, giggling. Like I felt Jesus in here. Like we were like connected so deeply. And it was just this innocence. And I was like, oh, I love that you're such a jokester too, you know? And it was just so beautiful to just go through all those emotions with Jesus. And then you go and we do this breath work of the calming of the nervous system to integrate. Now we're in time of integration, and after the session, I'm just like, wow, like I didn't think I was able to do so many inhales and exhales the way that you were counting. But it got to a point where my nervous system was so calm that when we finished that round of breath work, I was so centered. But it's like when even you told me to like, hey, it's time for you to bring your awareness back to your body. It took me a little bit because I felt like I was so high. Like, guys, our breath, it is the answer. Like, we are so powerful and we can like tap into the subconscious and tap into these things with our breath. Like, literally, God gave you breath. That is our life force energy. And there's so much healing that can be done through the breath when it comes to pain in the body, diseases, nervous system, all that
Come
stuff.
on.
Like
Come
it,
on.
the medicine is there. It's already there. And we're looking outside like, fix me. And you already have the medicine. The medicine is inside of you. The thing is, you have to take the time to do the work. And you know that for me was so profound. We talked about it later after the breath work. I start telling you like what happened and you're getting goosebumps and you're like, I didn't think it was working on you.
I'm like, there was no real feedback in like a long period of time. Like even when I did the talking, you didn't really react much until you started giggling. And so it was like a bunch of time. So I'm like, all right, well let's talk about it. And you told me your story, and I'm like, yo, what the heck? Are you serious? Like for real? Okay, so it really was God talking to me to tell me to say this, and I'm so
Yep.
glad that I listened. And it like like what kind of coincidence could that be? Where literally what he's saying to you, I say at the exact right time.
That's God.
Like
That's God.
like what? And for me, it's like I had a friend ask me, how do you differentiate between God telling you something versus you telling you something? Well, first off, it's really quiet generally when it's God. I have to quiet myself. I have to ask him. I have to center myself. That like if I'm going about my day distracted, not gonna hear it.
Mm-mm.
But there is a specific tell for me, and that tell is that there's really not any logic attached to the thing that I'm told to do. If it's me or my ideas, there's usually a logical starting point. There's usually like, oh, I need to do this because of this, and I'm thinking it because of this, and what it's going to do is that. Like, I understand it. I understand the path that it's going to take. But when it comes from God, there really isn't any motivation behind it. There's no logical path where I'm able to kind of see multiple steps in front of me. I'm just able to see the one step in front of me. That's it. And that's what makes it, I think, even harder is it's like, oh, I only know the one step. What do I do after that? Do I need to go into the I'm sorry's, the hop on a boat? I need to figure it out. Like, no, just say this. And I'm like, all right, I'll say it. And I'll repeat it until you tell me to say something different or until you tell me to shut up. And I did it. And hearing you say that, man, it was just like such a good confirmation. And sometimes you don't get that confirmation in the moment, which is what I was looking for while facilitating you. I needed the confirmation after. 45 minutes after I said that, I got my confirmation.
Because it was your mind. Your mind wanted the logic. Your mind is the one that wants to know the next thing. And that's the thing. Like, you just, like, God is like, show up. Are you listening? And once you get the mind in the way, that's where things get stuck, because you're not leading from the heart. The heart has it's not a goal or anything like that. Like, it's just like, just here, it's presence,
Yes. Yes.
and it's just, I love it. Like, this is amazing. Like, what we're doing, how we're holding space for one another, for other people. You just have to show up. That's
And
it.
just what an honor
No.
to
Mm,
be an instrument that Jesus is able to speak through. Like,
mm,
I will remember that moment for the rest of my life.
mm,
And just like just there's no words.
mm,
There's no words. And
mm.
it's just such a blessing to be able to do this kind of work, or to be able to provide the space for other people to do this work, because I'm not healing anyone. It's God healing. It's you choosing to be healed.
Yeah.
I'm just able to set the table, but I didn't make the food. But what an honor to be able to set this table and to
Yeah.
have Jesus speak through me was just
Beautiful. It was beautiful. It was perfect. It was divine. It was, guys, everything is about intention. Like, I tell people all the time, like, the energy is going to flow where the intention is. Intention goes where energy flows. And your intention was to hold the space, and you prayed and you talked to God, and God heard your desires from your heart, because it came from your heart. And then I came in open. My ego, at one point, your ego was trying, like, it's a little tricky little thing that tries to come in. And then you got the answer later. And at first you're like, this is probably not working. And then that was the mind trying to, like, distract you
Mhm.
and get you out.
It's not
And
just
then,
one choice, it's many choices you have to make to continue walking, stepping,
yes.
going forward, listening, quieting
Mm-hmm.
yourself, choosing
Yeah.
to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And then look what happened after, when I told you, you were just like, wait, what?
Shook. Shook. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and close out today's episode. And in
Yes.
episode 4, we're gonna get into the return of when we came back from Puerto Rico 10 years ago, and maybe we'll share a little bit more from this trip. But just know, when we got back from Puerto Rico that first time 10 years ago, I thought I was gonna do something nice for Jovi, but my good friend, my best friend, was like, "No, you're an idiot. You shouldn't have done that." And so a little teaser for you guys for the next episode.
Yes.
But thank you so much for listening to us, for watching. Don't forget to like the episode, leave a comment, subscribe to us. Uh, I'm still blown away by how many people are actually listening and talking to us about what we're saying here. So thank you.
Thank
That
you.
it's a beautiful experience, and we're going to continue to choose to say yes and to put ourselves out there, to be vulnerable. We feel that, by us being vulnerable, by us putting ourselves out there, we allow other people, we give other people the permission to do the same thing. So this isn't just for us, this is to invite you to do the same thing, for you to do the work, for you to really just connect back with God. um and so this is an opportunity we've been given, and we're going to take it. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys. See you in the next episode. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.